We are about to check out this Harrison Butker commencement speech, and let's get to it.
Gentlemen of the class of 2024, I would like to start off by congratulating all of you for successfully making it to this achievement today. I'm sure your high school graduation was not what you had imagined, and most likely neither was your first couple years of college. By making it to this moment through all the adversity thrown your way from, I hope you learned the important lessons that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group, you witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. It is through this lens that I want to take stock of how we got to where we are and where we want to go as citizens and, yes, as Catholics. One last thing before I begin. I want to be sure to thank President Minnis and the board for their invitation to speak. When President Minnis first reached out a couple of months ago, I had originally said no. You see, last year I gave the commencement address at my alma mater, Georgia Tech, and I felt that one graduation speech was more than enough, especially for someone who isn't a professional speaker. But of course, President Minnis used his gift of persuasion and spoke to the many challenges you all faced throughout the fiasco and how you missed out on so many milestones the rest of us older people have taken for granted. While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder.
Degenerate culture values. He is trying to attack something real that is destroying our nation. Our nation is destroying the fabric of what we stand for.
Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. You know, the difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice.
We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. So far, so good.
It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it. As members of the church founded by Jesus Christ, it is our duty and ultimately privilege to be authentically and unapologetically Catholic. Don't be mistaken, even within the church, people in polite Catholic circles will try to persuade you to remain silent. There even was an award-winning film called Silence, made by a fellow Catholic, wherein one of the main characters, a Jesuit priest, abandoned the church and as an apostate, when he died, is seen grasping a crucifix, quiet and unknown to anyone but God. As a friend of Benedictine College, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron said in his review of the film, it was exactly what the cultural elite want to see in Christianity: private, hidden away, and harmless. Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail.
I'm sorry, what? We have been teaching people how to grow online. It's been absolutely amazing. We have 3 people who have been able to reach monetization in less than 30 days. Growing YouTube channels, some from 0 people. We have one guy who had 2 subscribers before he started working with me. He started helping him. His views went up 4.8 million%. We're super excited. If anybody ever want to grow on YouTube, you reach out to me with the word coach. A bill was passed saying that if you talk about Jesus, you can be arrested? So you mean to tell me that these are not the times where we need to be serious about how we navigate ourselves and how we help these young people navigate their futures as well? Come on, man. Come on. We got to use, he said the point of view that he is attacking this speech. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet.
But make no mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order, and it starts with our leaders. The bishops and priests appointed by God as our spiritual fathers must be rightly ordered.
People who disagree with what he said to these young ladies, for everything that he's saying, I want you to please keep that same energy. Do that for me. Because he's saying a lot. So for point for point, please follow along and continue to disagree with what he's saying. All right? All right.
There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks, but none of us can blame ignorance anymore and just blindly proclaim that that's what Father said. Because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory. It's easy for us laymen and women to think that in order for us to be holy, that we must be active in our parish and try to fix it. Yes, we absolutely should be involved in supporting our parishes, but we cannot be the source for our parish priests to lean on to help with their problems. Just as we look at the relationship between a father and his son, so too should we look at the relationship between a priest and his people. It would not be appropriate for me to always be looking to my son for help when it is my job as his father to lead him. St. Jose Maria Escriva states that priests are ordained to serve and should not yield to temptation to imitate lay people, but to be priests through and through. Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners. And in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time because, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. St. Jose Maria continues that some want to see the priest as just another man. That is not so. They want to find in the priest those virtues proper to every Christian, and indeed every honorable man: understanding, justice, a life of work, priestly work in this instance, and good manners. It is not prudent as the laity for us to consume ourselves in becoming amateur theologians so that we can decipher this or that theological teaching, unless, of course, you are a theology major. We must be intentional with our focus on our state in life and our own vocation. And for most of us, that's as married men and women. Still, we have so many great resources at our fingertips that it doesn't take long to find traditional and timeless teachings that haven't been ambiguously reworded for our times. Plus, there are still many good and holy priests, and it's up to us to seek them out. The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed, fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget. As Catholics, we can look to so many examples of heroic shepherds who gave their lives for their people, and ultimately, the church. We cannot buy into the lie that the things we experienced during COVID were appropriate. Over the centuries, there have been great wars, great famines, and yes, even great diseases, all that came with a level of lethality and danger. But in each of those examples, church leaders leaned into their vocations and ensured that their people received the sacraments. Great saints like St. Damien of Malachi, who knew the dangers of his ministry, stayed for 11 years as a spiritual leader to the leper colonies of Hawaii. His heroism is looked at today as something set apart and unique, when ideally it should not be unique at all. For as a father loves his child, so a shepherd should love his spiritual children too. That goes even more so for our bishops, these men who are present-day apostles. Our bishops once had adoring crowds of people kissing their rings and taking in their every word, but now relegate themselves to a position of inconsequential existence. Now, when a bishop of a diocese or the bishops' conference as a whole puts out an important document on this matter or that, nobody even takes a moment to read it, let alone follow it. No. Today, our shepherds are far more concerned with keeping the doors open to the chancery than they are with saying the difficult stuff out loud. It seems that the only time you hear from your bishops is when it's time for the annual appeal, whereas we need our bishops to be vocal about the teachings of the church, setting aside their own personal comfort and embracing their cross. Our bishops are not politicians, but shepherds. So instead of fitting in the world by going along to get along, they too need to stay in their lane and lead.
That's what the Bible says, right? It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. It says, do not be of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. But a lot of times people just play to their strengths. They play to their opportunities. They believe that they're doing the smart thing for their families. Let's say we, I'm not going to say they, we believe we're doing the smart thing for our families. We're doing the safe thing for our families. Most of us don't have the answers, right? And then with all of these religions, very difficult for us to really believe in one religion. And if we all believe in God, then you have hundreds of denominations, probably even thousands of denominations, where everyone worship differently. So it just confuses the heck out of everyone. Like, for instance, I'm not a Catholic, and I don't believe that your prayers should go through another man before it goes to God. That's the reason why I that's something that I vehemently disagree with Catholics on. I don't believe that your prayers should have to go through another man before going up to God. I don't believe that. But none of us have all the answers. And something that really pisses me off is that a lot of you present yourselves as the ones with the answers, and you really don't have them. But then when someone else give you their point of view publicly, then we feel like we feel like we should be able to stone them. Let's stone them. Let's try to get rid of them. Let's try to cancel them. But you're going to see something that's going to happen at the end of this speech that's going to show that all of this made up anger is nothing but it's nothing but Satan showing himself. That's it. It's really Satan showing himself. People want to be upset for some strange reason. Y'all don't even want to be happy. You don't even want to get along with one another. You only want to get along with people who are in your, as RH said before, inside of the stream, the chat. You only want to get along with people who are in your echo chamber. People who will say exactly what you think. And if they don't, then you want to be done with them. Me, I really don't have an issue with people who don't believe in God, but I do know what works for me, so I encourage it. So if I speak to the wrong group of individuals and I start to incorporate God into my speech, then it will offend some people. It will. But that's not my intent. And that's what I go off of. If you don't have ill intent and you're coming from a good place and you're speaking from the heart, say what you got to say. Don't just hold it back and then try to debate somebody later who actually did open their mouths and say what they had to say. They actually said it with their chest. Or as the youngin said, they stood on business. All right. So that's what he's doing. He's coming from a real place and he's trying to give them some jewels and he's walking up to his point. So we're going to continue watching this joint, man.
I say all of this not from a place of anger, as we get the leaders we deserve. But this does make me reflect on staying in my lane and focusing on my own vocation and how I can be a better father and husband and live in the world but not be of it. Focusing on my vocation while praying and fasting for these men will do more for the church than me complaining about her leaders. Because there seems to be so much confusion coming from our leaders, there needs to be concrete examples for people to look to in places like Benedictine, a little Kansas college built high on a bluff above the Missouri River, are showing the world how an ordered, Christ-centered existence is the recipe for success. You need to look no further than the examples all around this campus, where over the past 20 years, enrollment has doubled, construction and revitalization are a constant part of life, and people, the students, the faculty and staff, are thriving. This didn't happen by chance. In a deliberate movement to embrace traditional Catholic values, Benedictine has gone from just another liberal arts school with nothing to set it apart to a thriving beacon of light and a reminder to us all that when you embrace tradition, success, worldly and spiritual, will follow. I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride.
Uh-oh. Let me play that one back just a little bit. Y'all heard that. I know y'all heard that. I got to play that one. Y'all saw what he just now touched on. I'm not even going to listen. I'm not going to say nothing, but y'all saw what he just now touched on. Watch this.
Attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it.
Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it. Shout out to President Barack Obama. Okay. You missed that one. Did that one go over your head? You'll catch that one on your ride home. You're going to catch it later if you didn't catch it just now.
But the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify Him. Reading that article now shared all over the world, we see that in the complete surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. Right here in a little town in Kansas, we find many inspiring lay people using their talents. President Minnis, Dr. Swafford, and Dr. Zimmerer are a few great examples right here on this very campus that will keep the light of Christ burning bright for generations to come. Being locked in with your vocation and staying in your lane is going to be the surest way for you to find true happiness and peace in this life. It is essential that we focus on our own state in life, whether that be as a layperson, a priest, or religious. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence.
Now, just to let y'all know, we got a little bit more to go. I really want to listen to this with you all. Don't leave, and hit the like button. All right, so the reason why we're listening to this whole thing is because something that messes us up as a people is we get all bent out of shape off of a sound bite, lacking context. Again, a lot of times we get bent out of shape over a sound bite that just goes through social media. They only take that one piece out that, oh, I'm offended. Did you see that he said this? Oh, he said that about girls? Oh my gracious, I'm gonna send it to other people to make them upset. Send it to other people to make them upset. But lacking context with anything will piss you off. So we're getting some context. And hopefully y'all share the context the same way you share the little sound bite of lie.
In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school.
My man about to cry and everything, man. He is in love with this lady. You know what I mean? How did this piss somebody off? I don't understand this. How did this piss? Okay, we're gonna continue to play it. We're gonna continue because he met his lady in middle school in band camp. And I met my wife in the 10th grade inside of the principal's office. I'll tell y'all a little about that later.
Would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
The only way a woman could get mad at this is if their husband or their boyfriend do not love them the same way he loves his wife, and you are a straight up hater. That's what you are. You're a hater. He said nothing wrong so far. He showed love to his wife. He said he wouldn't be the man that he is today if it wasn't for his wife. Where's the disrespect? Where's the triggering part right now? I don't get it. This dude started. I thought the ladies like a tear or two from a man. I thought y'all like when a man tap into his softer side, his emotional side. What happened? Man, this, I don't get it.
She's a primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and father. She is the person that knows me best at my core, and it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Well, that's the privileged part right there, bro. You're a rich NFL football star. So, of course you're going to say, heck no! Look at all these rings. Look at all this money, the smelly money. Smell that money. Look at the parking lot. Look at this big old house. Of course I'm not pissed off. Of course she's not mad, man. But if y'all was struggling, if you couldn't get no job, if you was just drinking all daggone day because opportunities, you couldn't find any opportunities where you live, you know what I mean? That's different. So, I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to give the people what there's still some people out there. You probably left already. I doubt anybody that don't agree with this guy is still here. That's how echo chambers are filled, because the people who have their reservations or they have their objections, they're like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. I'm gone. Y'all some sheep. And then they leave, lacking context, so that they can move on to their next conversation, their next debate, and see if they can, make some separations there, see if they can make things dark there. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is he is slow walking you into some common sense. And when people start hearing the truth, they bounce. When the light shows up, the darkness leaves. Huh?
As a man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today, I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, for let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control. It is only in the past few years that I have grown in courage to speak more boldly and directly, because as I mentioned earlier, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and father, and as a man. To the gentlemen here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities.
Now, leaning into your vocation, I'm going to allow him to finish, but I just want to speak on this for a second. When I tell people that my wife never been to a service station with her car, that seems like it's foreign. Like a man can't take care of the cars. Men take care of the cars. Some men don't take their cars to service stations at all. Some men are more manly than me. They get up under the car and they fix whatever's messed up. But I do everything that men are supposed to do in the family. And my wife does everything that women are supposed to do in the family. And we don't struggle to do our parts. Mine come with some difficulty, hers come with some difficulty. But guess what? We are here together to make sure that our lives together are less difficult. We are here together to make sure that our children's lives are less difficult. We work together to make sure that we reach our financial goals faster and that we maintain it and that we continue to elevate. So it's a whole bunch of positivity that comes with this leaning into your vocation type thing. Just because he says lean into your vocation does not mean that you should lack ambition and not want to do great things. He's not saying that at all. But if you hear it that way, that's because you wanted to hear it that way, because you wanted to argue.
As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the US, and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better. I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree. The road ahead is bright. Things are changing, society is shifting, and people, young and old, are embracing tradition. Not only has it been my vocation that has helped me and those closest to me, but not surprising to many of you, should be my outspoken embrace of the traditional Latin Mass. I've been very vocal in my love and devotion to the TLM and its necessity for our lives. But what I think gets misunderstood is that people who attend the TLM do so out of pride or preference. I can speak to my own experience, but for most people I have come across within these communities, this simply is not true. I do not attend the TLM because I think I am better than others, or for the smells and bells, or even for the love of Latin. I attend the TLM because I believe, just as the God of the Old Testament was pretty particular in how he wanted to be worshiped, the same holds true for us today. It is through the TLM that I encountered order and began to pursue it in my own life. Aside from the TLM itself, too many of our sacred traditions have been relegated to things of the past, when in my parish, things such as Ember Days, days when we fast and pray for vocations and for our priests, are still adhered to. The TLM is so essential that I would challenge each of you to pick a place to move where it is readily available. A lot of people have complaints about the parish or the community, but we should not sacrifice the Mass for community. I prioritize the TLM even if the parish isn't beautiful, the priest isn't great, or the community isn't amazing. I still go to the TLM because I believe the holy sacrifice of the Mass is more important than anything else. I say this knowing full well that when each of you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the Church's greatest traditions, you will see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be. As you move on from this place and enter into the world, know that you will face many challenges. Sadly, I'm sure many of you know of the countless stories of good and active members of this community who, after graduation and moving away from the Benedictine bubble, have ended up moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend prior to marriage. Some even leave the church and abandon God. It is always heartbreaking to hear these stories.
Okay, so just because somebody leave the church does not mean that they are abandoning God. Please stop down. That right there, I will say is BS. I call BS on that one. Just because you leave the church do not mean that you are abandoning God. But I did also notice that when he started talking about the things that men are supposed to do, like when we lean into our vocation, there was no issue with that. When he said lean into your masculinity, huh? Lean into your man. He didn't say the way you hear women talking about his speech, you would think he was telling the men to go beat their wives and say, fix me a sandwich. You would think that that's like from what I've been hearing, you would think that he was slapping his telling people to slap their wife in the face and tell her, go fix me a sandwich. And flare your nostrils when you say it. Pat, shut up, women. Go fix me a sandwich. Pat, 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 pat. Don't, just because you leave the church, it does not mean that you're leaving God. Don't believe that at all. All right? If you believe that, then you gotta go somewhere and pray. Go somewhere and pray on your life, because that's not true at all.
There's a desire to know what happened and what went wrong. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I say this all the time, that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places you are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career.
A life without God. I gotta play that again. That was good. How come I'm not hearing that one? That right there should have been a hot take. That right there should have been a daggone hot take. Here we go.
All the time that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint?
Bruh, he's dropping bars. What are you talking about, man? He's saying that you shouldn't be you shouldn't be unequally yoked. If they don't have the same faith and values as you, where you think your family is going to go? You're going to be trying to lead, and she's going to be all over the daggone place. She's going to be thinking about you. She's going to be doing her own thing. Where are the rules coming from? All right, they're not coming from God's law. So where are y'all making them up as you go? Are we allowing society to make up the rules for us? What's the word? Are we allowing our friends to make the rules, like based off of how their relationships are? Are we going to bring that to our homes and say that this is how things are supposed to be? This dude is speaking. He's spitting facts.
If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places you are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career.
Bars. Bars. This dude is spitting facts, man. This right here should have been the sound bite. What you talking about, man? I'll probably make a short with this part right here, because that was nice.
I'm excited for the future, and I pray that something I have said will resonate as you move on to the next chapter of your life. Never be afraid to profess the one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church, for this is the church that Jesus Christ established, through which we receive sanctifying grace. I know that my message today had a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go, which is heaven. I thank God for Benedictine College and for the example it provides to the world. I thank God for men like President Minnis who are doing their part for the kingdom. Come to find out, you can have an authentically Catholic college and a thriving football program. Make no mistake, you are entering into mission territory in a post-God world, but you were made for this, and with God by your side and a constant striving for virtue within your vocation, you too can be a saint. Christ is King to the heights.
Hold on, is that a standing ovation? Did he receive a standing ovation? Let's double it back. Let's play it again.
Christ is King to the heights.
And it seemed like everybody was standing up. They was getting to the and it looked like most of the graduates stood up, which is more important.